Welcome to the March 19th, 2024 City of Oshkosh Plan Commission meeting. We are glad that you can join us. I do see that we have a quorum. A few housekeeping items to go over before we begin. Please turn off or silence all personal communication devices. The applicant and members of the public may speak to any item before the Plan Commission when the relevant item to which you wish to speak is called and public comment period is open. Unless an exception is made by the Plan Commission, the following rules will apply. The applicant will be given up to 10 minutes to present any information they wish the Plan Commission to consider. Thereafter, members of the public will be given up to 5 minutes to address the specific item before the Plan Commission for consideration. Members of the public may only speak once per called agenda item unless a Plan Commission member requires clarification or wishes to ask you a question. Questions or statements from the audience will not be considered. Only statements from the podium after your stated name and address and within the allowed time constraints will be taken into consideration. After all community members have had an opportunity to speak on the called agenda item, the applicant will be asked if they have a final statement for the Plan Commission, and then the Commission may take action on that agenda item. The Common Council has adopted rules of decorum for city boards and commissions, including the adoption of a civility pledge. No person shall personally attack a board or commission member, city official, staff, or any other person. No person shall make irrelevant, unduly repetitive, offensive, threatening, slanderous, defamatory, or obscene remarks or act in such a manner as to disrupt or disturb the orderly conduct of the meeting. This includes hand clapping, stomping of feet, whistling, shouting, and other demonstrations. I thank you all for your understanding. Now we'll go on to the agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Coulibaly.
Here.
Miss Davy.
Here.
Councilmember Esslinger.
Here.
Mr. Ulrich. Miss Prop.
Here.
Miss Shireman.
Here.
Mr. Lowenstein. Mr. Nichols. Mr. Bowen.
Here.
Vice Chair Kiefer.
Here.
Chairman Perry.
Here.
8 board members present.
Wonderful, thank you. Approval of the March 5th, 2024 minutes.
Move to accept as written.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Okay, I'm seeing none. We can have a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. The minutes have passed. Item number 1, approve and submit Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources 2023 Stormwater Program Annual Report.
So, a little bit different of an item than Plan Commission has ever seen before. When the city did its board consolidation, we had to find a new mechanism for moving the MS4 annual report through the approval process and on to council. So we did determine Plan Commission would be probably the appropriate body given some of the board and commission changes. So we have some individuals from Public Works here today that are going to go through the annual report, talk a little bit about it. Luckily we have some members on Plan Commission that have some history with this that can kind of help talk through it as well, and hopefully answer any questions you guys have about it. I'll listen.
So I'm going to accept that report as part of our record. You can present your summary.
I'm Alyssa Deckert. I'm the Civil Engineering Supervisor with the city, and I'm here to go through the 2023 MS4 Annual Report. As Mark already mentioned, we used to go through Stormwater Utility Appeals Board, and unfortunately they were eliminated last year. So we are here for a recommendation of approval so we can move forward with that. I'm just going to go through a brief summary of what the report entails. So we're going to start with just a definition of MS4. It's the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. Can you hear me?
Good now.
Sorry. Which is a publicly owned storm sewer system that collects rainwater runoff, snow melt, and other drainage that discharges into local waterways. The permit, we are required to have a permit through the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources because the city of Oshkosh is over 10,000 people in population. The permit was initiated in 2007. There was an update in 2014, and our existing permit is due to expire the end of April, when the DNR will come out with a new permit. The purpose of the MS4 annual report is to provide the DNR with an update annually on our compliance with our MS4 permit. And we do that through the following control measures, which I will elaborate on the following slides, but just a brief overview: public outreach, illicit discharge, construction site pollutant control, post-construction stormwater management, pollution prevention, and our overall storm sewer system map. So the first control measure is public outreach, education, involvement, and participation. We are able to reach most of those goals through the Northeast Wisconsin Stormwater Consortium, or NUSC. We are members of their consortium, and they provide stormwater resources for us and other communities. And some of those resources that they provide are an annual watershed cleanup, school presentations, training opportunities, and an annual conference. And they also have other resources as well. These are just a few of the highlights. And then other things we are able to claim on the report as outreach and education are things like news articles, social media posts, and our city website, which has a stormwater page that covers stormwater utility credits, stormwater brochure, and other resources like that. The next control measure is illicit discharge detection and elimination. We have an annual ongoing screening through a consultant, and they evaluate municipal outfalls throughout the year to determine if there are any potential illicit discharges. This past year, in 2023, they evaluated 87 outfalls, and there were 13 potential or confirmed illicit discharges. And other ways that we report on illicit discharges in the city are through complaints and observations from the public. Things like grass clippings, we had 12 of those, concrete slag, oil, and then other pollutants, which we classify, or we count things like leaves that are raked into the street. We also had one truck hydraulic leak, and all of these things have been cleaned up since they happened. The next control measure is construction site pollutant control, which is erosion control. We do weekly inspections on our city sites, and also do inspections for anytime there's a half inch of rain or more. And in 2023, we completed 478 of those inspections. Annually, we also have an erosion control presentation for contractors and staff that one of our stormwater engineers puts on. And last year, we had two of those trainings totaling in 17 people attending. The next control measure is post-construction stormwater management. This includes best management practices, or BMPs, things like ponds, biofilters, anything that provides stormwater quality or quantity prevention or reduction for a site or a region. In 2023, we had 19 new approved BMPs that were privately owned. We approved those through our site plan review process, and as a part of that process, we do require operations and maintenance agreements that require those facilities to be operated and to be maintained on a regular basis. And then the last category in this section is municipal owned and operated BMPs, which we have 30 of them that we annually inspect. The next control measure is pollution prevention. Again, 30 municipal owned and operated BMPs inspected and maintained annually. We also do street sweeping that helps eliminate debris in the storm sewer system, and we had approximately 884 tons that was removed this past year. Additionally, similar to that is inlet cleaning. We install sumps in our new inlets that collect debris as well, and that is cleaned out as well, and we had about 442 tons eliminated last year. In the fall, we do leaf collection, which helps reduce phosphorus and other pollutants in our storm sewer system. And then, obviously, we live in Wisconsin, so we have salt and brine for winter road management, and those kinds of things aren't great for our storm sewer system. So we hold annual trainings for our street staff And they learn about the salt and brine and the effects they have when you use excessive amounts of it on our roadways. And last year we had 2 of those trainings and 18 staff attended. And then the last control measure is our storm sewer system map that's updated annually by our GIS staff. It's very hard to see, I guess, from this point of view, but just a quick overview. Those green lines on there are our storm sewer. There's some small red, yellow, green dots that are our outfalls that the consultant reviews each year. And then there's yellow blobs in there that are any private sites that disturbed more than an acre and require an NOI or a general stormwater permit through the DNR. And again, those are approved through our site plan review process. And then there are some faint blue and green blobs in there, I guess, that are stormwater facilities that are municipally and privately owned. And there's other details in there as well, which you can certainly look at if you want to review the annual report and its attachments. And then the process of reporting all of this, the DNR has an e-permitting process. We just input all of that information into their website, attach all of the supporting documents. We go through something like this for approval and council as well, and then we're able to submit it. So if you looked at the PDF at all, it's going to be in that format of that e-permitting software. I know that was a very quick overview, but do you guys have any questions?
Thank you. Plan Commission, any technical questions on this? Ms. Shireman.
I'm just curious, from last year to this year, is there anything that's emerging or any trends or themes that are different? This is the first time I've heard something like this, and I find it interesting, but I'm wondering from years past, is there any great takeaways?
As far as what? Just in general?
I mean, and if there's not, that's okay. If it's status quo and it's everything's, pretty similar, that's fine. I mean, that's fine too.
I mean, we do have a citywide stormwater management plan, so we are always striving to better our waters. So there's improvement each year, and we try to do additional outreach events and things like that, but not a whole lot of changes, I guess. Not significantly year to year, but I'm sure we've made progress since this originated.
I didn't recognize all the outreach. I think that's really great. That's good information to have.
Yeah.
'Cause it seemed like, I sort of thought it was like this tucked away kind of thing that, you just hear things and it's like, no, you're actively training city staff on too much road salt and going to schools and, like all of those kind of things. So, okay.
When the stormwater utility was still around, we always pushed for a lot of public outreach kind of stuff, or just having maps or signage at some of the ponds explaining what they are and what they do, and a lot of stuff, a lot of things around online that we kind of promoted, and the city staff did a nice job of putting together, and it's been building and building and building and over the years. So
Great. Yep. Thank you.
Mr. Kobali.
I was just curious about the way you go about detecting the illicit discharge.
Our consultant, they take samples and they run tests on what potential discharges that they have found. And then things like, there's also potential discharges that you can see visually, floatables, grass bottles, solid waste, things like that. And that can indicate that there's a potential discharge, and that's when they'll run some of those tests. So generally tests or visual observations.
So you're just after the discharge or after the perpetrator?
What was that?
No, do they go, those consultants, do they go just after the discharge, or do they try to identify the perpetrators?
We try to, the consultant will help us track it upstream and identify where it comes from.
So they, every outfall is looked at. I won't say every outfall, but there's a schedule that they look at every year. Certain ones are done every year. Obviously, if there was something discovered in one, they will relook at that again. And then So over a course of, I don't know, 5, 7 years, something like that, 10 years, every outfall will be looked at.
Okay.
And then obviously some of the major ones are looked at every year. And we have a private contract that does that for us.
Yep.
So, and then they usually present a report to the Stormwater Committee on the results. So it was always fascinating.
Okay, thank you.
Any other technical questions for the staff? Okay, I'm seeing none, and I will allow public comment on this agenda item. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? Any member of the public wishes to speak on this agenda item? Okay, I'm seeing none, so I'm going to close the public comment period. Commission, the action is upon you.
I'll make a motion to accept the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? And I'm seeing none, so let's have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Kulabali,
Aye.
Ms. Davy,
Aye.
Councilmember Essinger,
Aye.
Ms. Pratt,
Aye.
Ms. Shireman,
Aye.
Mr. Bowen,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kiefer,
Aye.
Chairman Perry.
Aye,
Motion carried 8-0.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 2 is a public hearing. It's a zone change. It's from Suburban Mixed Use District, SMU, to Suburban Mixed Use District with a planned development overlay, an SMU PD, for property located at 555 South Washburn Street. Park Place Holdings LLC is the owner and Ben Witt is the applicant. Before we start, remember this is zone change only. Do I have any commission members that did site inspections? Those are noted. Thank you. I will accept the staff report as part of the record. Please present your summary.
Thank you. So the subject site is a 1-acre commercial property located on the west side of South Washburn Street, north of West 9th Avenue. It's currently utilized as a multi-tenant office building. The surrounding area consists mostly of commercial uses, along with a city water tower and fire station immediately to the south. And the 2040 comprehensive plan recommends interstate commercial land use for the site. Here's a view of the subject site. The applicant is requesting a zone change to establish a planned development overlay, and that is intended to provide flexibility to accommodate site constraints for redevelopment for a new commercial use. And the applicant intends to develop the site for a drive-through restaurant. The GDP and SIP request was previously submitted but was withdrawn from the February 20th Plan Commission agenda, as the applicant is currently working on revisions to the original plans, and they intend to resubmit for GDP and SIP review at a future date. Staff is supportive of the proposed zone change to add the PD overlay, as it will accommodate future development needs for the site, as the site has hardships related to an A&R pipeline easement running through the property, existing cross-access agreements with neighboring property, and insufficient space for a second driveway access. So with that, staff recommends approval of the zone change with the findings listed in the staff report.
Okay, thank you. Plan Commission, technical questions to staff? Mr. Bowen.
I'm just going to ask the probably technical question of, we are not considering the site plan that was included in our packet. So none of that is germane to our discussion here. We're considering the zone change of overlaying the PD on the SMU.
Correct. We're only looking at the zone change at this time. That site plan that was included was from the original submittal. We know there's been a lot of discussions going on between neighbors, property owners, engineering, city staff. If or when a site plan moves forward, it'll probably look different than what that previous one was. So when they move forward, if they move forward with PD requests, we'll be getting a new site plan out and all the information associated with it at that time. But at this point, it's just putting the PD overlay in place.
And the PD overlay, in this instance, is justified in staff's mind by what's anticipated to be some complicating factors of developing the site, not necessarily what you've seen on plans or anything so far, but what you anticipate in terms of multiple access points, the pipeline.
The nature of the air pipeline alone cutting through kind of almost the western, southwest half of this property is going to make challenge of this site for any project extremely difficult, because it's really going to limit the usable area on that property. Given the close proximity like of that northern entrance where it's literally right at their property line, under typical development standards, we would never have a driveway that close to another parcel. So this site is a challenge for any development, which is why we feel the PD is probably appropriate. I mean, looking at the surrounding area, you look at even like the property just to the north of this. If anything ever wants to be done to that building, it's probably looking at a PD, because same thing, it's got site constraints, no parking lot with it and stuff. So if you look up and down the entire 41 corridor, especially as some of these developments took place with some of these odd-shaped lots and our pipeline utility issues, most of it's a PD for a reason. Redevelopment in that corridor is a challenge.
Okay, thank you.
Any other technical questions? Okay, I'm seeing none. So this is a public hearing, and I will open the public hearing. I will request a statement from the applicant. Is the applicant here tonight? Don't see the applicant is here. In the absence of the applicant, I will request additional public comment. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to the zone change on this agenda item? Please approach the podium and state your name and address for our records, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Larry Mroczkowski. My home address is 3370 Collier Court in Oshkosh, and I am the property owner just to the north of there that we were just referencing. Now, I know this is just a zone change, but I wanted to put a face to a name for everybody, and I did also print out my meeting notes, which you're more than welcome to take and pass along. The reason why me and a couple of the neighbors here are here is mostly because we think that the traffic issues that this is going to cause. So I'm going to go through my notes that you all have right in front of you, and then you can ask me any questions along the way. I realize this is only for 5 minutes or so, but I'm fully on board with tearing down that building. It's an eyesore. I don't like it. As soon as it gets torn down, it's going to give my building better visibility. So I'm very grateful for that. And of course, if it ends up being a Freddy's, I love custard and burgers more than anyone. If they have a punch card, I'll probably be the best customer there. So I'm standing on this issue in a couple of ways. The first is, you'll notice that on the north driveway, I have an easement. That easement is owned by Tower West, just to the west of me. So I'm obligated to pay for 50% of that small easement in the front where Freddy's is trying to make a de facto drive-through. Now, the traffic in that area, just from Freddy's website alone, if they say their average unit sales is 2.5 million, I went and tried to do some reverse engineering. You could look at the math, but basically, we're looking at an additional about 450 customers a day just from my math alone. If you put that in, a 12-hour period, I realize that they're open long, and even in some of the spike times, lunches, dinners, maybe late breakfast, you're looking at dozens and dozens and dozens of extra cars trying to get in. If you look at the map that's on the screen, you'll notice that's on a curve. What happens right now is that cars stack up as they're exiting our parking lot. So when cars are going to try to turn into any sort of new driveway that they're trying to put on, the stacking is going to be, it's hard to put it into words, but phenomenal. The stacking trying to get onto Washburn and then into Freddy's, because then the stacking coming out is going to block the entrance coming in. So the cost of the repair of the easement is not my main concern. Basically, the easement was never built for this type of traffic. Even in the quit claim deed of the easement, it says for the grantors to reserve unto themselves, so this is very specific language, within the above described parcel, the right to ingress and egress the parking lot owned by the grantees, and reserves the right unto themselves the right to install utilities if necessary within the property above. Okay, so a drive-through entrance is simply not a utility, nor are customers of the business a binding party to the easement, as this is reserved for the owners themselves. Now, the staff proposal saw this is an entirely civil matter in the recommendation to you. I see it as both a civil and a public matter. The council should consider whether easements in general are entirely civil or if easements are indeed a matter of city concern. I believe they are of importance to the city, which is why they require legal paperwork and public space, public notice. Aside from all this, the easement right there, it's only 30 feet wide. There are times when cars are exiting, like I said, and they're trying to get out along the curve and it's gonna stack up. My suggestion to this is to use the south entrance as an entrance and an exit and wrap around the east side of the building and to then come back out the south entrance without creating another entrance through the drive-through. So I also share many of the other concerns that a lot of you guys probably saw emails flying around, right? So parking from the drive-through customers in our parking lot, parking from employees, the litter blowing from their parking lot to ours, and then there's a bus stop right in front of my building there, which already gets tons of cups and bags from other drive-throughs. So this is just gonna add way more to it. So at this time, I just think that there's much more to consider than simply city code and setbacks. I'm not opposed to a zone change at all. I realize that the A&R pipeline runs right through the middle of it all. Unless the zone change assumed that the 555 owner has already worked with surrounding neighbors to allay any concerns. It said that in their write-up that they had already spoken to us, and there were lots of emails between one of their employees and us. Sure there were, but our concerns have not been allayed at all. And if that is the case, then the zone, at the very least, the zone change should be delayed. That is all. So I thank you guys very much.
Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak on this agenda item?
No. Are you going to speak? No. Okay. I don't have to. Okay.
Please state your name and address for our records, please.
Yes, I'm Larry Burton. My home address is 486 Sunrise Bay Road in Neenah. So I'm one of the physician members of the Ear, Nose, and Throat Specialists of Wisconsin, one of the major tenants of the Tower West. I'm also a member of the shareholder group that is the landlord, and so some of the information that's been shared with me to be passed on throughout all the stages has come from a number of the other tenants as well. 2 comments, 1 request. The first comment is we are also very much on board with economic development of this property. It's going to be good for the community, it'll be good for the neighboring property owners, and it's going to be good for the existing property owner that really has a building that's just not viable right now to bring income. So for the idea of developing this and bringing value to the community, we are 100% on board. The second comment is somewhat reflective of what we've heard so far. The site plans, which again, this is not going to be decided now, had initially showed a number of problems with traffic. The first site plan actually had traffic patterns so that the normal American way of driving on the right, that coming into some of the entrances, you'd have to cross over to the left side upon exiting, and so then you're going from an American to a British way of, and then crossing back over to the American. So that's why initially this was pulled once there was some feedback that was received by the owner of this property from some of the neighboring tenants. The newer ones, which I don't know have even come to your level, has shown some additional challenges, basically with respect to the amount of traffic coming in and out of the north entrance, which does have a tendency to stack up a little bit. It could prevent the ingress into the property. It could also back up onto Washburn as well. There is one, just some context, there's one special consideration that's not regulatory, but it has to do with the neighbors and the tenants. One of the largest tenants in the Tower West building is an entity called Northeast Wisconsin Retina Specialists. So that is a very large group of retina surgeons that have a tremendous amount of patients coming in, and they're visually impaired. In fact, so much so that we had to make some changes in the building because some of their clients were when they were supposed to open a glass door and all, they would bump into and fall back injured because they just couldn't see that it was glass as opposed to, an open way. So we've had to do some building mitigation. And you might say, should these people be driven instead of driving? And many of them are, but but there's really two things that this group really takes care of. The acute problem of the retinal detachment of someone who's otherwise healthy and then wakes up, or during the middle of the day, one eye goes black because their retina has detached. They're told to come in urgently because we got to get you under the laser and get that vision back. They're still driving with one eye. The other ones are those that have macular degeneration, which is a chronic and worsening condition where the vision gets worse and worse and worse. And so because there are so many visually impaired people coming in and out of that, we want to have special sensitivity to the safety of not only the clients coming and going, but also safety with respect to the entire regions. We don't want accidents. So that's the second comment that, again, we're not talking about site plans, we're not talking about traffic flow here, it's just a zoning a change proposal, which we don't want to stand in the way of that if this moves the analysis further. The final request actually comes with a thank you. Wanted to thank the property holders, even though they're not here today, as well as the city staff that have been really open and collaborative as we work through some of these things. So our request is just as the plan moves forward, just to keep us in the loop. Our goal is to bring about value and enhancement to the property, whether it's a drive-through restaurant or whether it really needs to be something else. We're definitely as co-owners, we want property values to go up in the community to support that. So our request is just to keep us in the loop, let us know as things progress, how things are coming, so that we can continue to help get a really nice tenant and a really nice economic development out of this site.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
All right, is there any other member of the public that wishes to speak? Any other member of the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? All right, I'm seeing none. Since the applicant is not here, we will not have them come back up for a closing statement. So, Plan Commission,
Before you, if I could just
one
add,
comment from the,
given kind of how this project has moved forward and the fact that we're only doing zone change now, we had them pull their PD request because we have some time commitments we have to work with once things are filed. So they'll have to essentially start the PD portion completely over. So what we'll do is, as we get a new plan set in, we will require a neighborhood meeting of them. So we can hear once again from the neighbors before this ever comes back to Plan Commission, if it moves forward. I think there's a lot of moving parts here that we have to see if they can come up with a plan and work with the neighbors and get something that works. But we will require a neighborhood meeting of it as or if new plans ever come in, just so Plan Commission is aware.
all right, thank you. So Plan Commission, the action is upon you.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the agenda item. Is there any discussion on this motion? Ms. Brock?
Yes, I think it sounds like there are a lot of moving parts and issues, but a PD is a really good idea, especially for this kind of a problematic property. So I'm going to vote for it.
Any other discussion on the motion? Councilmember Essinger.
Thank you, Chairman. I think we have really kind of two issues, but one is pertinent today. That's the issue at hand is the zone change. The staff is in favor of that, and I believe if I heard the two gentlemen that came up, they're actually in favor of that. And so I go back as a council member, is there a contentious issue? I really don't think there is with this. I think we have a challenged property that needs some help, and I believe, as the staff said, this would mitigate some of the issues that we have there. So that's what we're looking at today. The two gentlemen did, however, discuss some issues with another proposal, and I think that their issues are well stated. And if at that time that proposal comes back, that's certainly something that I would seriously take a look at. But I think for what we're doing today, I think we're helping with a challenged property that hopefully, ultimately, we can get someone, get that property back to where it needs to be. So I'll be voting in favor of it.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this motion? Okay, I'm seeing none, so let's have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Coulibaly.
Aye.
Ms. Davy.
Aye.
Councilmember Eslinger.
Aye.
Ms. Pra.
Aye.
Ms. Shireman.
Aye.
Mr. Bowen.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kiefer.
Aye.
Chairman Perry.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 3 is a public hearing. It's a text amendments to the zoning ordinance. Department of Community Development is the applicant. There are no site inspections reports. I'm going to accept the staff report as part of the record. Please present your summary.
You have anything to say? Just quickly, we do these every, once or twice a year. I'm not going to have Brandon go through all of them. We'll hit the highlights. If you do have questions about a specific one, we can discuss it in a little more detail. It's a lot of cleanup, a lot of just, these zoning ordinances are kind of living, breathing documents as developments change and we learn more and we see where things are going on. We're constantly tweaking it to give us the best ordinances possible, make it the most user-friendly, and kind of fix some of the issues that come up along the line.
Yeah, so over the past year, planning noted a couple changes. We always do these reviews. And so, what's listed here today is what we're proposing, and that first step in getting these adopted is to come to Plan Commission. So I don't know if you got a chance to look through them. If there's any questions that you have, I think maybe we could start there. Otherwise, as Mark stated, a lot of cleanup. None of it is super different than what was already there. Some language changes. We did remove, if you look at section 30-240 regarding exterior building design standards, currently the code just requires under single and two-family residence that it prohibits the boarding up of windows, and we are removing that section completely and just putting it in front of everything, meaning that it applies to all properties, not just single and two-family homes. So the boarding up of windows would be across the board, not allowed. And we do allow it, if you're doing reconstruction or something, you have a permit, you can keep it boarded up for a number of days. But
yeah, as Brian mentioned, it's one that was noticed as an inconsistency when there was some enforcement trying to be done this year where it specifically only called out 1 and 2 families. So we're just trying to make sure it's an even playing field across the board, not singling or any specific zoning districts.
Yep. Another one that comes to mind that was maybe a little different is we removed the section, I believe, for bicycle parking standards in the, let me see here, for storage land uses, yeah. So
this was something we saw the projects we've had come forward have requested that base standard. Just given the nature of what they're doing, they are auto-oriented. We don't typically see a lot of people biking their stuff to their mini warehouse unit. So instead of continuing issuing a base standard, let's just remove it and note it in the code.
And lastly, I guess the only other one to really mention here is regarding off-premise advertising. We just wanted to clarify that non-branded signs with uniform text are not considered an off-premise advertising sign.
And this was, again, it's one that as we worked through it this year, there was a couple instances came up where we wanted to make sure it was clear in the code so we weren't having to go have a back and forth with potential developers or building owners, just to make sure we're all on the same page in the clarification in the code.
So that means if a building if Verve is sponsoring a building, as long as they don't do it in their branded Verve, they could do it like in a standard.
Could be the Verve entrance, as long as it's standard text for the entirety of that sign. You could name that portion of the building as long as it doesn't include their logo or anything of that nature.
And inside, it doesn't matter what type.
Inside would be
totally off.
whatever they want.
And lucky for us and you, we're already working on the next revisions, so. Whole list already. That's how fast it happens. Any questions?
Just one question, maybe this is a softball question for you guys. But again, as a council member, when I hear from contractors and the public, it seems to be the challenge they have is the interpretation of these texts. And so the softball is this going to clear up some of the gray area? And if so, how?
Yeah, and that is a goal with a number of these changes, is just that. Take out interpretation and try to spell it out better in the code, so there isn't that concern about how are you interpreting it. That's why a number of these talk about clarification. We're trying to make it easier when they read the code that they understand it, instead of having to have us interpret it.
Did you run these by any contractors that happen to come in, or just call someone and say, hey, we're thinking about this change, what do you think?
Kind of happens the other way. It's more like we get a phone call regarding a question about a project, and then when we're trying to figure out the answer to the question, we well,
yeah, as Brandon
we need to
mentioned,
make note of this.
Yeah, as he mentioned, these are largely in response to those questions that we've received.
Yep.
It's issues that have come up and they've needed clarification.
So you're reacting to things that have come forward.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
That's fair, yeah.
That's good. I congratulate you, and I mean, it's funny, but seriously, I mean, as Meredith could probably tell you, and Ms. Prop, anyone that's been on the council, people call and they say, I don't understand why I can't do this. Well, first of all, I don't even know what it is, and so now you've got to look at something from your standpoint and their standpoint, and kind of play the mediator. I don't know.
Mediator?
Yeah, mediator. Thank you very much. Tough question.
And we understand.
So anything that clears that stuff up is.
Yeah, we understand how zoning gets very complicated, so we're always trying to improve our code so people can understand it, which is why, probably at least twice a year we bring these forward. We're always trying to make it better.
Bravo.
Any other questions?
No other technical questions on this report? Okay, it is a public hearing, so we're going to open the public hearing, and the applicant has already made a statement. So are there any other members of the public that wish to speak to this agenda item? Any members of the public that wish to speak to this agenda item? Okay, I'm seeing none, so I'm closing the public hearing. We don't need a statement from the applicant, so commission, the action is upon you.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, I'm seeing none. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Coulibaly.
Aye.
Ms. Davy.
Aye.
Councilmember Esslinger.
Aye.
Ms. Prop.
Aye.
Ms. Shireman.
Aye.
Mr. Bowen.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kiefer.
Aye.
Chairman Perry.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Okay, next item on the agenda is adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. We have 2 workshops.